Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here tonight. My name is Cindy Napoli. I'm a member of the Littleton Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen, along with the Littleton Public School Department, the Littleton Police Department, the Fire Department, Elder and Human Services, as well as some members of our community, have come together to form the Littleton Coalition Against Addiction. We are proud to present tonight's community forum with guest speaker Richie Farrow. Tonight's event will also include information from our forum guest panel, Meredith Perry, the Health and Physical Education Curriculum Coordinator at the Littleton High School, Deputy Chief Patterson, Jeff Patterson. I was going to include Chief of Fire Scott Wazinski, but I don't see that he's here tonight. Kelly Young, Peer Outreach Coordinator from the Littleton Police Department, Nicole Aronson, Outreach Coordinator from Elder and Human Services, and Donna Kivlin, a peer recovery coach. Following Mr. Farrell's presentation, we will have an introduction and presentation by our forum panel guests, as well as a question and answer session with the audience. So why are we here tonight? The motto for LCAA is to get help today so you can see tomorrow. One of the reasons we are here is to help. We are also here to educate, inform, and embrace anyone who needs help, knows someone who needs help, or has questions about addiction and resources available in our community. In the words of Mr. Farrell, there's no exact recipe that results in someone becoming a drug addict. We may start using drugs with friends as teenagers or young adults, or we are prescribed narcotics after an operation. After a period of time, our drug use becomes habitual and we can't stop. What used to be fun now becomes something we can't imagine living without. As described by a journalist from 90.9 WBUR, there are not many people who can say they have been able to lift themselves up from being a homeless heroin addict to working as an award-winning journalist, a writing professor at UMass Lowell, an author, and most recently a Hollywood screenwriter and actor. But our guest speaker tonight has done all those things and more. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker for tonight's community forum, Richie Farrow.
Wow. Thank you very much. Jeez. I had to, I tell too many stories, so I'll try not to go off. This morning when I spoke to the kids, I went too far and cut off the resource officer. But whenever I hear those words, why are we here? I can hear my wife telling me, don't say it, Richie, don't say it. But whenever I hear those words, I have to tell, it's in my book. So I was in this, detox in Lowell, and it's where the book takes place. I wrote the book as in the 7-day program, Lowell Detox. And if anybody had seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, anybody see that movie? Well, the Lowell Detox, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was like a 5-star hotel compared to the Lowell Detox. They had duct tape on the windows, the cracks, and anyway, there was this orderly, Jack, and he was this great guy, retired firefighter, and recovering alcoholic, and he used to just hang around, volunteered a lot, and he liked us guys. And so, excuse me, our old church in the Acre, St. Patrick's, he used to bring us on a bus sometimes to oh man, I shouldn't tell the story, but to church to get us out of the detox, and so he'd take us, and only 6, 7, 8, and 9 would be not second. They weren't, could go. And Billy Burns, this kid Billy Burns from Lowell, he was. So when I was in the 6th grade with Billy and Pat Dowling and all the boys, Billy was driving to school. He had been in a car accident on Fletcher Street where he got hit when flying in the air and had plates. Spent a lot of time there. He was a real character. So I'll get to the story. We go to the church, and all of Billy and everybody's talking, and Father Muldoon is getting pissed. He's got up in the pulpit. Anybody ever been to St. Patrick's Church in Lowell? So he's up in this big wooden tower in front, And he keeps looking at Billy, keeps looking, getting to your words, why are we here? That sparked this insane story. Father Muldoon yells out, why are we here? And Billy Byrne stands up and says, because we're not all there. Anyway, it sounds a lot funnier for me. Anyway, this is my book. It says up there that people should read it who have kids that are addicts. I think that all kids should read it. It's pretty dark. It's pretty disturbing. It goes right to the core. It's tragic, and it tells exactly how it just takes you. And someone asked me today, a teacher came to me and said, some of these figures I'm going to show you, does that count for the kid who takes Percodan, who has surgery and is given a script? I said, yes, that's the number one. Played football at Austin Prep. I was a middle linebacker. Playing against Andover. Andover had this program where they brought kids, underprivileged kids from the south, deep south up, some very big kids. And they were undefeated all this year. We were playing them in a scoreless game. We were both undefeated. So it was a draw play, and I went for it, dropped back in the zone, saw him coming. I got chopped, which you can't do anymore, by the tackle that was about 300 pounds. Took me out, wound up at Choate Hospital, knee surgery, Percodan. I was 17 years old and I was in love, man. 17 years old, I was in love. Percodan, the opioid, it removed me completely from my conscious awareness. I didn't wake up anymore and think my father was a crazy Irish guy and yelling and screaming in the house. I didn't care. I didn't have a problem in the world, man. Just give me more of those. And then, of course, one thing led to another, and I did some really nasty things. And but I was never going to take another teacher told me that one of the kids going out said, well, if they're not stupid enough to take heroin to shoot it, then they're going to die. And that's right. When you're a kid, that's what I said. Hey, I'll take these Perconans, but I'm never going to stick a needle in my arm. Never. My father died in my arms. My mother was in the 5th floor of St. John's Hospital. Called a buddy of mine, Vietnam vet, who was a junkie, and had to meet me at the hospital, St. John's emergency room. Went into the bathroom, locked the door. He shot a bag of heroin in my shoulder. Went upstairs and told my mother that her husband was dead. And 4 days later, I gave the eulogy at St. Patrick's Church, which is on Adams Street, right? If you know Lowell, that's where all the dope was. And I had just scored 2 bags of heroin. I had shot him intravenously in my arm. That's how fast it went. Irish Catholic, but parents both teachers, not middle class, not a lot of money, but we had stuff, we had cars. I went to Austin Prep. It's a beast, and it takes you, and that's what I'm here to talk about, that beast. So I don't want to I can go on and on. So this is me in the fighter. Anybody know who the other guy is? Oh, I forgot I'm wide. Anybody know who the other guy is? Tiggy Eklund, played by Christian Bale, who won the Academy Award. Next. That's me down there on a panel the day that President Trump declared. Will you put that in? Probably just stick that in the side, and that's the problem. And General McFarland down there on the bottom was Obama's drug czar, and we had quite a battle over the state of the epidemic, because the key that we talk about in this epidemic is harm reduction, which is legit, right? There's some good people out there that we don't want people robbing their houses or violence, sticking them up. It's true, and we get hit with this epidemic so fast that there's no way we could have controlled it. My thing is this, is that harm reduction, yes, but harm elimination is after that. We cannot continue to give opioids to opioid addicts with Suboxone and Methadone. What's in it for me? Tell you quick, I always ask what's in it for me. I left Hollywood because of this guy. There's a beast out there, and I'll be quick with this. This is, I got married again. This is my son, Aiden. He's 12 years old. He excels at everything. 6th grade, only kid that made the soccer team of this elite group. They're tri-county undefeated champions. The only kid to make the basketball team. Teachers say they can't believe it. 4.7, go to 6th grade. 4.7 his cum. Nicest kid in the world. And there's a beast out there that's after him. I know that because I see it. Good kids. It's a different world. I was from Lowell, a junkie. It's a different being a junkie from Lowell in the streets of Iowa. The beast is after your kids. And it's a beast, man. It's a beast, and we have to pay attention. That's why I'm in it. The heroin epidemic, I pressed it too much. The heroin epidemic. How did we get here? $12 million people. 2.6. 191 a day. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Bad news. It's going to get worse. Harvard did a study. The death toll over the next decade. Look at that. If that was a virus that was going around killing everybody, man, they'd be throwing a lot of money at that. Believe it. Look at these figures. I think we all remember this, right? I was a kid. I see the scroll up on the bottom. During the Vietnam War, we lost 59,200 young Americans in a jungle over 20 years. This is amazing. We will lose a Vietnam War every year for 10 years. 2017, that's when the study was done. That's what we're in for. That's reality. Accidental overdose of opioids is the leading cause of death of Americans under 50. I wrote an article in the Huffington Post about this. Think of this. Not guns, violence, not cancer, not heart disease, not accidents. Opioid overdose, the leading cause of death in Americans under 50. The LA Times, this is my pet peeve right here. The LA Times did an investigative story years after Barry Meir, the New York Times journalist, and I, with our friend Joanne, tried to get a movie made about this. Big Pharma had created a massive legal opiate addiction, which directly led to the heroin epidemic because pharmaceutical corporations own addiction to profit arguably trumps any concern it may have had for patients. They not only created it, but they're making millions on it. They're being sued by most states right now. Purdue, my favorite. I remember years ago, I had a politician called me and said, Richie, I got this company, Purdue, that wants to pay you to go around speaking. And I asked Joanne, hey, because she introduced me to the guy. And Joanne runs this program, Learn to Cope, that's fantastic in Massachusetts. And I said, Joanne, should I do it? They give offering me. She said, Purdue, you know that? I said, yeah, Chicken Man. They're Purdue. I said, no, they're not Chicken Man. There's a guy that it's blood money. Purdue orchestrated this epidemic. I've written about it for years. Anybody knows who those guys are? The Sacklers. They call them the OxyContin clan. They're on the 14th on the Forbes top billionaire list, all from the sale of OxyContin. You know what they did? They took a drug, they bought a company in Switzerland that was going bankrupt that owned OxyContin. They did the research. The scientists said, do not write this script for anybody that's not a stage 4 cancer person. It's highly addictive, the most addictive on the planet. They hid that information. They got quick approval by the FDA. 3 months later, the FDA, this is all fact, you can look it up, you can read this report, you can Google Ritchie Farrell, HuffPost, and you can see all my articles, and all the facts are backed up. The guy that ran the FDA resigned, took a big job at Purdue Pharma. They finally got him. They finally took the 3 executives to court, criminal court. Rudy Giuliani's law office got him off with like a $50 million fine, something that they made in a half hour. They got away with it. Barry Mayer, the New York Times journalist who wrote the book about it, told me that he was at the trial in Virginia. And at the end, before sentencing, all the people that had lost their kids, I think Joanne went too, that all the people that had lost their kids had a chance to come and say something. People would walk in with urns with their kids, put them on the table. It didn't matter. They're on the list. Then Congress shut down the door on Big Pharma. They finally got it. But it left this huge appetite, right? So what did the cartels go, oh man, the cartels said, hey, let's drop the kilo price in half. They orchestrated a plan that was like Domino's pizzas all over the country. They set up these shops. You can go to Lawrence right now and buy a bag of heroin for $10. Think about that. A 6-pack of beer is $9.99. When I was a kid at Austin Prep, we'd throw money in for beers, right? $10. And the appetite is there. Across the country, I told the kids this, there you go. When I finally goes, you guys are screwed, you know, and they all laughed. And they are. And I'll tell you why. The new face of heroin. At this meeting, I was out I was writing this story for the Huffington Post a week before Christmas. And I was sitting in this room with this beautiful young lady who ran the state of Missouri, the $20 million that the feds had given the state for this epidemic. And basically, she had just come back from Washington and with Kellyanne Conway, the new czar, and basically they're getting ready to throw the generation away. The key is harm reduction, again, to keep them medicated so they don't hurt anybody, and to spend all their money going after these kids. So this generation's screwed. So the only one that can do anything about it are you guys, the parents. 87% of all recovering addicts relapse within the first 5 years of their recovery. 13% of people stand here like me. Those numbers suck, right? Now, I'm not talking about people that are on Suboxone or Methadone. You can go to Lowell and stand at the Methadone 6 o'clock in the morning and see them all lined up. I'm talking about a quality life. See, my thing is abstinence. This book I'm writing now, I agree with harm reduction. I agree that we need Suboxone, we need Methadone, we need to keep kids alive. I agree with that. But we have to go for harm elimination. We have to go towards abstinence. I have a lawyer whose daughter's been on Suboxone for 5 years. Do you know Suboxone and Methadone are the best business model you could ever think of? I'd love to own a business like this. No accounts receivable. If you're not on Medicaid or Medicare, whatever it is, if your parents have insurance or they have money, you have to bring your kid to a Suboxone doctor twice a month because they can't write a whole script. You go in, cash, $250 for the visit, $390 for half a month. And you got to keep going to keep them on Suboxone. What you're doing, Suboxone is an opiate agonist. Opioid agonist, it's opioids, giving them a little piece. That little door in the brain, it opens it just a little bit, lets in a little bit. Methadone opens it wide, blows it right in. That's what we're doing to our kids. This girl here, let me go back just one sec. This was a friend of mine, Elizabeth Marie Thompson. She was president of the National Honor Society in her high school, field hockey captain, full ride academically at the University of Maryland. Met a guy, got out, got a degree, and her degree was in counseling and addiction. Became worked up at 25. By the time she was 25, she was a regional manager of these offices. Met a kid in there, was addicted, fell in love with him. Now, good family. I talked to the mother 2 days ago, Jane. She wound up in Baltimore in a hotel. The boyfriend talked her into sleeping with guys. She wouldn't do it. So they had a plan that they'd get the guys in there, then they'd rob them, take the money. After 3 or 4 times, the guys saw it. It was at a truck stop. He'd bring them from a truck stop. After 3 or 4 times, the guys got it, and they set them up, and they beat her and gang raped her. They beat the boyfriend and gang raped her. I met her in a detox. I was trying to help her. She wanted to write a book. Brilliant girl, you know, little baby. She had escaped in the night, got out, and can you play this? Her mother sent this to me yesterday. That's okay, there's no sound, but that's okay. That was the last time she ever touched her daughter's shoulder. She was found dead 5 days later from fentanyl. And that's the other thing. There's no longer, my buddy works as a nurse practitioner, and a kid from Lowell, Jimmy Layup, Big Jim, and he tells me that that all the talk screens no longer heroin, they're all fentanyl. It's dangerous stuff. Dangerous. Okay, we'll get through this quick. So 85% of females who try heroin, now think of this for your kids, now think of it. 85% of females who try, these are the new figures out of Washington that the woman gave me in Missouri. 85% of females who try heroin once before the age of 27 will become addicted to opioids before they reach 35. That could be from a prescription from a doctor. Pretty girl, huh? That's my daughter. She struggles every day. 85% of males who try heroin once before the age of 24 will become addicted to opioids before they reach 35. Same thing. Justin from Woburn, D1 soccer goalie at Syracuse, knee operation, dead, in the ground. Went from OxyContin to heroin. His father, Carmen, the greatest guy. They have a foundation. I don't know if you know Carmen Lucci. The greatest guy in the world, him and his mother. Devastated. Never see their son again. Nicest kid on the world. Not a punk. These are good kids we're talking about. Bear. This kid here, at 18, they got a waiver for him on the left in the 8th grade. They got a waiver for him to play for his high school hockey team. Leading goal scorer. There he's playing in the juniors. His 12-year-old sister told me this when I was over. The mom was in real estate. They had to go out to show the house on a Saturday, and said, so her job was to go downstairs and get Bear. They called him Bear. He was 6'2", 190 pounds at 16. And there's a picture over there, right? Teachers I talked to and were said, best kid you could ever think of. He would help anybody. The 12-year-old girl, I'll never forget this. I go, she's looking at me, she said, so we had this game. I'd go down and get him up and say, come on, Mom's, we're running late. Mom's mad. She's got to get going. She's got to get to the showing. And we had this game. He'd fake like he was sleeping, and I'd climb up on him and open his eyes, his eyelids, and he'd jump. She said, I'll never forget it. She said, something told me that day not to do it. She ran upstairs, told her, Mom, I'm scared. He's not getting up. The father went down. He was a cop. He was a lieutenant, great guy. Went down on the bed, knew it was wrong, couldn't, to do CPR, he couldn't do it on the bed. When he picked him out to put him on the floor, all black liquid came out of his lungs and his nose and his mouth, dead. No NHL career for that kid. That's his mom. She'll never be right again. She buried her son wearing his jersey. She will never be right again. In vet school, teeth, had wisdom teeth pulled, fell in love. In high school, you think it won't be you until it is. This is something that I won't show now because I want to get to the group up here. But I started. My goal is to bring this around the country, and I also have a live TV show, YouTube, that we're shooting with the hope of bringing it, so people can watch it on their phones, addicts and parents. And this is the trailer for it, but I'll leave that alone for now. I think I skipped one. Stigma, the number one thing you can help me with, you can help everybody with, is stigma. Nobody wants to talk about it. There was a young girl today, I was walking out, right? We're walking out, everybody was gone, and in the shadows, this girl was standing there. And I've been all over, and there's always someone standing there. It's scary. When I was in Laconia doing this with the chief of police up there were a bunch of them. But this girl was all by herself, and we're walking out talking, and she's there. And I see her as we're walking up. I said, do you think this girl? She goes over, and I go over to her, and she's like holding her, looking around. She said, thanks for coming. People don't like to talk about it around here. But she said, I said, are you okay? Is there something you want to talk? And she said, my stepsister was found in Marlboro, dead. Got a 4-year-old. It's a stigma. People don't want to say it. She doesn't want to speak up about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like it's bad. We're junkies. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're heroin addicts, we're junkies, but good people. All these people that are dead were great, great people. So what we need to do, and what we're going to get to right now, to shatter that stigma, we need the police departments, the fire departments, the politicians, community activists, school counselors, and parents, all on the same bus. We got to all get together. You can't be afraid of police officers anymore. We can't be, it's not about that. I've been all over this country with the police, and they know that this is devastating. They know they have to do something about it. What we're going to do right now is we're going to pull the tables together, and we're going to questions. We're going to get the community to speak about their programs, and correct? Okay.
My name is Meredith Perry. I wear a lot of hats in this community. My first responsibility is I'm a teacher here at the high school. I teach health. I also am the co-chair of the wellness committee here in town. I am the curriculum coordinator K through 12 for health and PE. I'm also now a member of LCAA. I think that's it for now. Currently at the high school, there's actually a state mandated screening that we are mandated to do. It's called SBIRT, and it stands for Screening, Brief Intervention, Referral to Treatment. Basically what's going to happen, the 9th graders are going to meet with the school nurse, and they're just going to have a confidential conversation with them, and they're going to try to understand their behaviors or their involvement or lack thereof in drug and alcohol abuse. And so it's a confidential conversation that they're having. Anything that they say cannot be used against them in any way, shape, or form. A lot of the concerns came about was through sports. MIAA has very strict rules about substance abuse, and anything that they say cannot be reported to MIAA or anything like that. If they do need a referral to treatment, that is something that will happen. So it's confidential in the fact that they can't get in trouble, or there won't be the negative consequences involved with that. We also have the Youth Risk Behavior Survey at the 6th, 8th, and then all the students at the high school. Surrounding towns also take the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It's through Emerson Hospital. They take it every 2 years in March, and then the following year we get the results. The results that we had in 2016, our students reported 2% higher than the aggregate. So 11% of our students said that they had used any prescription drugs that were not prescribed to them. So they are using currently, and again, this was 2 years ago. So we are going to do it again in March, and it should be very interesting to see what their results will be this coming March. So this is something that we will have not taken lightly. And obviously, as we have presenters, and I talk about drugs in my health curriculum as well. So that's just something to give you a statistic as to why we're doing it here.
My name is Jeff Patterson. I'm the Deputy Chief for the Police Department here in Littleton. I've worked here for 16 years. Out of the 16 years of that time, 10 of it I've spent at Air District Court working for the drug court. The area courts, even throughout the state, have developed a drug court where any type of criminal activity that they feel is based on the fact of substance use disorder, they can divert the case to the drug court, and it's a year-long program that they have to go through. So it's always been important to me, and it's been important to the Littleton Police Department to look for creative ways to deal with the substance use disorders. Departments throughout the state and throughout the country realize that we can't just keep arresting people for the criminal activities such as breaking and enterings and stuff without dealing with the underlying problems. So the drug court was one of the ways that really started to work to help that out. What we're seeing now is we want to get to it before they get to courts, and that's the drive that everybody wants to do. Right now, we start, like they mentioned, we started the Littleton Coalition Against Addiction. Also, the police department got involved with the COIN, it's the Collaborative Outreach Initiative Network. And what that is, it's 10 towns out of the Air District Court got together, and the Pepperell Police Chief wrote a grant to get some money in order to bring in an outreach coordinator for the whole town. So when we have a substance use issue within our town and a mental health issue, which is also a big problem that we're dealing with, we can call this outreach coordinator and refer the case to them instead of the only options before were making an arrest or doing nothing. And that's not acceptable. So now this outreach coordinator will either come out that night or do follow-ups the next day with the person and get them the assistance and point them in the direction they need to go. I think that's been one of the real important changes. And through COIN, we started to work towards becoming a part of PARI. It's the Police Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative. Sorry, so many acronyms. And so we joined that. That was started up in Gloucester, where they had the Angel program where somebody can just walk into the police department, even if they had drugs on them, and just ask for help. So we joined with the whole program, COIN joined with them, and they were able to provide us more grant money to where we now have peer recovery coaches that work with the towns, and they also do the follow-ups, and they work with the people that we do the referrals for on a constant basis. We felt that was one of the things that we were missing, is to have a constant contact with the people. And we had the opportunity through PARI to send one of our officers to a peer recovery academy to learn how to do that. And I'm going to pass it on to Kelly Young, who's one of our communications officers, who volunteered to just take that time and to do the extra work. And now she's actually working for PARI and assisting our town as well. So Kelly Young.
Thank you, Deputy. So my name is Kelly Young. I'm a communications officer for the Littleton Police Department. I'm also an addiction recovery coach for PARI and COIN. And I'm also a part of LCAA. And I'm very passionate about recovery. I'm very passionate about helping people. That's been my number one thing all my life. I've just wanted to help people. I'm honored to be a part of LCAA, and I'm looking forward to helping the community and area communities. Addiction has touched my life personally through my family. I have a family member who was addicted to opioids and heroin, and now is in recovery for a year, and it's just wonderful to see that. Our family struggled, and with that being said, I want to spread awareness. I want to provide resources, and I want to just get out there, and most importantly, I want to stop stigma. I think that is the biggest thing that affects opioid and drug abuse is the stigma. So with me getting out there, getting into the police departments, getting into the communities, I'm working alongside a great group of people here and the selectmen. I want to just get out there and spread awareness. So thank you all for coming.
Hi, my name's Nicole Aronson. I'm one of the outreach coordinators at Littleton Elder and Human Services. I have also been touched by addiction in my life. I have only worked for the town since September, but I grew up in Littleton. I graduated from Littleton High School, and I've lost count of how many people I went to school with who have died of an overdose or who are fighting addiction or in recovery. So I'm hopeful that with this new initiative, people will feel comfortable coming to the police department, coming to Kelly or I for help, and we just want to get the word out there and want you to feel supported by the town. So.
Hi, I'm Donna Kivlin. I work for PARI. I'm able to help the police department and do outreach. I'm a recovery coach, peer support, and I'm also a clinical director at a comprehensive treatment center in Fitchburg. And Cindy had asked me today to tell 10 minutes of my story. It could take 2 hours, but I promise it won't take that long. So with that being said, I am a person in recovery, which means for me, I have not had a mind-altering drug since April 4th of 2012. Public speaking is not my forte. However, it seems lately I'm getting more and more practice. So I'm a little nervous tonight, so just bear with me. I grew up the oldest of three. I was the oldest. My dad was a police officer, and I was a true meaning of a daddy's girl. In some ways, it was amazing and healthy, and others, not so much. I was never made to face consequences for my choices. Dad saved, or at least tried to save me from everything. Reason being, the woman that gave birth to me was very abusive, both verbally and physically. I would be addressed growing up as there should have been abortion. And if you were told something over and over, you begin to believe it. She was a woman who material things and how much money and success the family had was important. My dad worked as many details and overtime as he could, as well as a part-time job maintenance, as she refused to work, and he was never home. The abuse was an everyday occurrence. At the age of 8, my brother was adopted and my sister was born, and in 1 year I went from an only child to the oldest of 3. As I got older, my weight would fluctuate, as it still does. But I remember very clearly the woman who birthed me giving me 2 pills one morning, stating they were magic pills. Being 10, I took them. And I can honestly say now, I never really looked back. A few years later, I found out one was a 10-weight dose span, a diet pill, and the other was a Hygrotin, which was a water pill. My dad, never being around, knew of the physical abuse, however, not to the extent it was, and was never aware of the pills due to the threats that woman would give. Praying many nights as a child, please God, keep me alive until I'm old enough to move out. Years went by, I was taking pills every day for energy and weight control, getting into trouble periodically, abuse continued, trouble with the law began. However, I was always saved. Dad was always there. I began to spiral out of control, but he would fix everything. I never had to face any consequence or answer to anyone. I barely graduated from high school. I did get a part-time job filing in a dental office, which led to training for a dental assistant. I went back to school, became a certified dental assistant. My life began to quiet down. I moved in with my aunt, had a stable job in a dental office long-term. My dad would brag about my accomplishments to others, which would boost my self-esteem. My life went on. I met my first husband and stayed in a violent relationship for 18 years. Yes, I stayed. He loved me. Why wouldn't I? He had an alcohol problem that I tried to fix. One night, he brought home crack. I was clueless as to what it was. However, I did know that every time he went into the bathroom and smoked, he would come out sober and happy. Curiosity got the best of me. I tried it with him, and I was hooked. I wasn't sure what it did, but I felt better. I felt like all my worries and memories of anything bad were gone. I loved it. It masked all my bruising, hurt, both inside and out. Mental health issue? Not me. That only happened to crazy people. During these years, I received 2 broken jaws and a third resulting in a shattered mandible. During my 3rd pregnancy, a fight resulted in me going down a flight of stairs and being rushed into Worcester for an ultrasound. Doctors had suspected the baby was hemorrhaging. Thankfully, she was not. However, I was done. I went home, opened a beer, put it in front of him with a picture of our 5-year-old twins, and I said, choose. He smiled, picked up the can, and took a drink. My question was answered. Although I was able to stop using while pregnant, the moment she was born, I returned to the only thing that gave me comfort, made me forget. I was always a great con artist. I had to be to survive. This is what I knew. So with that being said, no one knew my addiction. My children suffered. They have memories I wish they didn't, but in some ways, I am grateful that they do. I robbed and stole from dental offices, churches, anyone that would feel sorry for me and give me cash. I didn't care. I was numb. The drug made me forget. Is that an excuse? Absolutely not. But it is a reason. By this time, my dad had finally left the woman and was very involved and in tune, more than what I thought. He made a surprise visit late at night and validated his suspicion. His daughter was, in fact, addicted to crack cocaine. He proceeded to remove my children from me and told me I was on my own to get help. It was one of the loneliest times in my life. I was lost and my mind was everywhere. I just wanted to die. There was no one to talk to and nowhere to turn. I went down the street to my church, sat with a priest for what seemed like hours, and he saved my life that day, literally. I began attending NA meetings, and it was very weird because I felt a sense of belonging, which I really don't or didn't understand because I really wasn't an addict. Once I was cured and not addicted anymore, I stopped going. I was a single mom for a bit. The kids and I had our own little routine. Dad would come every Friday night for dinner, and life was simple. I decided to move from the city and found this great community. My dad was here. I found a job in a dental office in Westford, and I was actually doing great. During this time, I met my husband now, who would help change my life more than I could ever imagine. Soon after, though, we received devastating news that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He was in terrible pain. Old behaviors and not thinking things through drew me to illegal behavior yet again and very quickly. I stole prescriptions from my employer for narcotics and would fill them and bring them to him, telling him the dentist felt bad and agreed to write the scripts for him. One day, I had a migraine and I decided to take one after picking up one of my many forged prescriptions. That euphoric feeling was awoken, and yet again I was hooked. It didn't take long for the police to catch on, and I was caught. I was arrested and charged. My dad again was horrified at the lies I had told, but I had told him I can fix it. I wasn't an addict. I was placed on probation, drug testing regularly, actually doing well. Dad got real sick quickly, and I brought him home from the hospital because he never left me anywhere. I was fortunate enough to sit next to him for hours and ask questions. The one question I needed answered was, why did you stay with her for so long? Why didn't you leave and take me? His answer, she probably would have killed you. The doctors told us that I had 6 months with Dad, and I lost him in 4 days. My world crumbled. At his wake, I was so proud to be standing next to him. He had a police honor guard as well as a Marine Corps honor guard. I was the last one to leave him that night, and the last memory I have was leaning over that casket and taking him by the jacket, sobbing, saying, "How do I live without you? I don't know how you forgot to teach me that." I turned around and Billy was there waiting, just as he's always been. Not too long after this, I began to experience lockjaw due to the arthritis that had developed. I went through 4 surgeries and was enrolled in Mass General Pain Clinic. I was given hundreds of opiates monthly. I had energy and felt like Supermom. I would get up in the morning, take 5 to 6 pills, have a cup of coffee, make big breakfast, clean the house, do the laundry, taking handfuls of pills throughout the day. I wasn't an addict. I was what I thought a Littleton mom should be, involved, focused, active in school activities. However, the guilt began to set in. I felt guilty because I could not get my kids the phones or the clothes or the video games, the material things that were important. The thought process, have to keep up with the Joneses. They deserved all those things from being without for so many years. The guilt took over. I stole a significant amount of money from my father-in-law, giving the kids the summer of a lifetime. The pills were numbing. The pills masked all things going on in my head. The clarity was gone. And in the end, my beautiful children lost their mother, their rock. I was caught again. Littleton police are pretty good at what they do. I was incarcerated. I had everyone fooled, or so I thought, even my husband. I remember like it was yesterday, sitting in a cell, and my cellmate asked me what charges I was being held for. I told her my probation officer had stated I was an addict, and I was mortified and very, very angry. Did I look like an addict? My cellmate stated, "You are so stupid if you think differently. Not only are you an addict, honey, your head is pretty screwed up too." The next day, I sat in a green sweatshirt in an alcohol and drug class and read the material handed out regarding dual diagnosis. It was as if that pamphlet was written about me. I was lost. I was fortunate enough to be released into air drug court and began a life-changing journey. I recommitted another theft and yet again was standing in front of a judge who was contemplating whether to put me in jail again. When he decided to, I said, "How can you do this to my kids?" He leaned over the bench and said, "I'm not, you are." Those words sat with me for a week in MCI Framingham. When they brought me back in, that same judge was waiting and asked if anything had changed. I said, "Give me another chance, rebuild me, because I have no idea what or who I am." Well, drug court didn't rebuild me. Instead, they gave me an invaluable tool, how to rebuild myself. Tonight, I sit here with a grateful heart. Tonight, I sit here to share my story, to put it all out there. Not for you to feel sorry for me. I made my choices. But I feel I've learned life lessons I wouldn't have unless I went through all of this. Tonight, I sit here to tell you, you are not alone. There are people to talk to. Tonight, I sit here to let you know you are great just as you are. Our children don't need to impress anyone, just themselves. You don't need to impress anyone. Money and material things mean nothing. I devote my life to spreading awareness and a resource for help. I am blessed to have people around me who have seen me climb this mountain, who believed in me when I didn't even believe in me. One of my biggest supporters is sitting here at the table. Deputy Chief, I don't think I ever really said thank you. So thank you. Thank you for never losing faith. Thank you for being a great part of my journey, but most of all, thank you for giving my children their mom. I will forever be grateful. Thank you to my own rock, my husband, who never gave up on me and always loved me despite of it all. And thank you to my children, Carrington, Jake, and Jenna. I hope all three of you know you are my world. Tonight I sit here blessed to have a career and a passion for what I do. Tonight I sit here, just a mom. I sit here tonight to tell you there is help. There are people to talk to who understand, who will never judge. Be aware in your lives and your children's lives, this can happen to anyone. Addiction does not discriminate. And never think, oh, not my child. They wouldn't do that. They know better. Tonight I sit here an addict with a dual diagnosis. And I am in recovery, living 1 minute at a time because sometimes a day is just too much. Thank you for listening and thank you for all your support.
Anybody have any questions? I don't know if we got answers, but I'm sure you have, there has to be a question or two. Anybody here dealing with any loved one with addiction? Is there something that I can and the panel can help with? Question: is it is it a son or daughter? No. Whoever. I'm just saying. I saw a couple hands go up and said they would. Yes.
I have a question for the panel and for anybody here. So as a teacher here in the middle school, what more can we do? Because it is an opiate, it's an epidemic. We're in crisis. Like, what more can we do for these kids in this community to help prepare them to make better choices? As a community, what can we do? Like, in the schools, what can we do? And what can we do?
But she's a teacher.
Huh.
So we do the same things.
I think what we're seeing here is a good start. Getting out, Rich did this presentation, a little different version of it to the students this morning. And I think getting out in front of it and talking to all of them and getting them into this room to hear the stories, and then they broke down and went back into classrooms and met with their teachers. Detective SRO Crory went around to each room to tell about the police side of things and to get into that discussion. I think the community is getting in front of it. Cindy Napoli for putting this together and putting together the LCAA is all the stuff we have to continue to do. But I think the most powerful thing, and one of the, it's almost like a mic drop, is Donna's story. To end on that was just incredible. And you've come a long way. And I think it's important that you get your story out there and show what you've become. And we have to show that the stigma shouldn't be there anymore. The people that have unfortunately made the choice to get involved with the substance use disorder, they're real people. And they have stories that got them to that choice, and they have chances to make a better life for themselves. So the most important thing we can do is keep having these discussions, and let's break the stigma.
So I believe I have a son in 6th grade right now, and I think, I mean, I've spoken to 8th graders, and it's a different type of presentation, you know, of course, but I personally think that we need to have, like this young lady and other recovering people who have been to be able to go into the schools and be able to tell their story. I know that my son Aiden, who's 12, knows a lot about what's going on. He's seen a lot of death, the death that I've seen. He, you know, gets to see it. I think we have to, the picture I had about the new face of heroin, that with all the babies, I think we have to, you know, education's the key. So what the teachers can do, which is tough because there's a lot of, you know, the stigma about this is very, very simple. I hate to go on. The stigma that we have to break, and we talk to, this is very similar to the AIDS epidemic. Very similar in the way that people look at this as a moral issue, right? And a lot of times when you think that those kids are too young. So the AIDS epidemic, it was men having sex with men. Hey, if they want to do it, that's their own. If they want to do it, they're going to die. So we have to break that stigma of, listen, I'm not making them put a needle in their arm. So how we do that is that we start getting it introduced into their minds in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I think the teachers can do that. I think that, you know, working with these great people to maybe get a program where they go into and they first speak to the teachers, because if you don't get the teachers on the bus, it doesn't matter, you know. And my parents were both teachers, and my father in Lowell at high school, my mother for 46 years. And my mother's still the vice president of the Massachusetts Teachers Association, retired. So unions are strong, and if you don't get the teachers on the bus, it doesn't matter. So that's what I would say. I don't know if there's any more, but you have, you know, the deputy chief, you have this young woman go around, you get teachers, maybe you start something at the school, and you get with this new group, the coalition, you get with them, maybe you bring in to the school and you introduce, you know, because a lot of times parents might push back, and, you know, at that age, oh, my kids aren't going to do that. That's what it. Unfortunately, the way the numbers are showing, 3 or 4 years from now, this place is going to be full of people. 3 or 4 years from now, there's going to be people sitting in this room that have buried their kids. When I was in Laconia with the chief of police up there were people in, it was pretty packed, and there were people sitting in the room that had buried their kids. And it just snowballed, and that's what's going to happen. So you as a teacher, you can, if you want to take the lead in your school, I'm sure that the coalition, I'm sure you can jump on the bus and start the lead, right? Anything else? Yes? What's that? I'm sorry, what did you say?
I feel like we as parents really have to be involved in who our kids are.
Yeah.
My friends are not looking at a bad way, just being in their mind, like really. I mean, we all are busy or not busy,
She's 15.
I have 15 and 18-year-old. And it's just scary because she's got depression and anxiety, and I talk to her every day about what we're talking about this morning. It's in our family, my mother's an alcoholic, my nephew's in and out of rehab. And I said, you're a high risk. I said, nobody's sick. I said, but you know what? I got your back. Every day. I said, I'm going to teach you how to be a teenager without it being having to party and do drugs and alcohol or nothing. It's nothing about being in a small town or it's nothing about.
She's in school in this system. So guys, you know, how can we reach out to this 15-year-old girl in the group in the new to kind of bring her in to say she's not alone, right? How can we do that? Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Honestly, I think if I could just be that is what I say to her, and I said, this is just going to, you're going to watch this play out. It's going to be rough years in that case in high school. It's like, I'm not going to tell you anything differently. There's no way to figure that out.
Yeah.
Things are going to do. You are strong. You have to be strong enough right now to be yourself and not take the peer pressure. That's a very hard thing.
That's a tough thing, but if we think of this, if we...
You're good. People at home, whoever is at home, or in your family, and the people you surround yourself with supporting you, you have a chance.
That's right, but think about that.
Stay busy, like children, what's in school, sports. Some people are busy with whatever makes her happy. I don't know what it costs.
But here's the thing, think about this. You got her back, you're going to be there for her, but then she's out, right? Just think about if the teacher gets the ball rolling in middle school, you get involved with these guys and you get other moms who have daughters together. Now all of a sudden she's got this support, right? It's not just her mom at home with her back. There's a whole bunch, right, guys? Right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Richie, and I think that we would be more than happy to go into the schools and maybe even start a group or, you know, talk to the teenagers and the kids and let them know, you know, they're not alone, because I know there's a lot of other kids out there who are in the same situation as your daughter, and if there's a way we can spread awareness in doing that, I know I would, and I know my peers here would too, my colleagues, I think would be a great opportunity to be able to get into the schools as a group.
Nice to see maybe some other things for them to do. I think we've all got our moms and people in the community talk about that. So yeah, we all talk about it. That would help. I think because it's so easy. You know, that line is right there. Oh, what am I going to do tonight? Who's having a party? Or, wait a minute, what's going on? There's a skating rink up there. There's an escape room place.
Right.
You know, over in West, there is other things. They can go to a concert. Be that parent who drives the place. We are all the time driving. I don't care. You know, have we complained to each other maybe once in a while? Sure, but I wouldn't change that for the world.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them something else to do. So maybe that's something we can do.
Westford has a really good program like that. Westford has a coalition against addiction. And they have a youth organization that they formed through their coalition. So we can certainly reach out. We've already spoken to Westford on some level. We can certainly reach out to them and see how they created that. But you hit the nail on the head, because what they offer through their youth coalition is alternatives for kids, other activities for them to do. And it's also, it's a safe environment where they can share their concerns and things like that. So we can definitely talk more about that with the coalition and reach out to Westford.
There's a young lady right there.
I have two questions. For the high school health teacher, that SPUR program, is that, I don't.
The SPUR.
I went to a Mass Public Board of Health meeting, and they were talking about, you know, the kids coming out, and that, you know, they don't want, if they're going to be honest, they need to have somebody that they trust, not a police officer, because they don't want to get ratted on, but, you know, to get honest answers, you need to find somebody, right, that they can talk to and answer those questions. So that's one thing. I don't know if there's somebody, you know, the school nurse may not be somebody that the kids feel comfortable with, maybe another teacher. I know Mrs. Bonacor, they all love her. So that's just one thing. And the other thing too is, you guys are all talking about students that have access to your services in school. It says Help 24/7. What about the people that aren't in school, the adults that are dealing with this? And what kind of resources are there for graduates or moms, that are going through this?
Well, I think you're right. We started with talking about the schools and everything else, but the LCAA is talking about other programs to reach out to the ones that have gone away to college and come home from college for, the summer and stuff like that, or the ones that have gotten out of high school and haven't gone to college. The age group from the 18, 19 to 25, 26 years old that are still home with mom and dad and trying to find something to do. I think we've discussed having different group meetings and different type of, not so much counseling sessions, but gatherings where if somebody's feeling some kind of pressure or feeling they're leaning towards that, it's someplace that they can come and speak to Kelly or Nicole, get in touch with any type of assistance they have. They all have lists of contacts and everything else of different groups and different organizations that can handle different type of problems. So I think it's the beginning of the LCAA. So I think any ideas that you may have, please send them our way so we can take a look at doing it. But we are putting things out there. There's going to be flyers with informational stuff going out around town, different locations around town. So if you happen to be the pub on the common having a drink and all of a sudden, you walk out and there's a flyer right there of, it could be a spur of the moment that night that, hey, you know what, I really need to talk to somebody about this. I'm going out too many times during the week or something like that. So having that right there in their location, in their face, so that they think about it, and then they can reach out to Kelly and Nicole and try and get that help. And maybe just, that one night, have a conversation with them on the phone or have the follow-up the next day makes all the difference in the world. So.
I know some great politicians all over this country. Some really good, and they all tell me that the best way to win is a grassroots operation, right? Grassroots. Get people out there active, get them going, word of mouth, right? So let's say that that your daughter has friends that are in the same thing. Talk to their mother, join the coalition, start a group for the youth. Because I'll guarantee you, I know a lot of people who have buried their kids, and I know right now that they would do anything to change that. They would go to any extreme to change that, to put their child on the other side of the ground. So that's what I say, grassroots, man. Do it like you're running for office. Build a coalition to be, 300, 400, 500 people in it. That's the key. There's a young lady down there.
What, if anything, is being done about the doctors prescribing these things? My daughter had a wisdom teeth out last summer and was prescribed 30 Percocet. So I gave her 2. And then I started on Motrin and threw the rest away. That's because she's still living with me for a couple more years. My older daughter, who's out, she could get injured next week and, something like that could happen to her. Yeah. It's very scary. I don't know, maybe the state legislature can do something.
My name's Gabe Simon. I'm an emergency room physician at Neshoba. Hi. So the opioid law that Governor Baker passed and the state legislature passed actually, I think, is doing a lot of good in that area. If you prescribe an opioid these days, you have to actually check a prescribing history. You can pull prescribing histories from 30 states now, I think it's up to. So you can see all the prescription fills for any kind of controlled substance going back 12 months. So that's actually a big help for us. It used to be that people, really could doctor shop or go from hospital to hospital to try to get a prescription filled. And now the law is you really have to check that prescribing history to see if somebody has filled a prescription previously, so there's not more than one prescriber filling a prescription. So I think that's a big help. If you I think the other thing that really has changed is the messaging in terms of prescribing pain medication. So we were really told what would amount to a lie. I would agree with what Rich is saying in terms of the effects of pharmaceuticals or opioids in the long term on patients who aren't addicts. And I think what that lie is if you're not an addict, then you won't be addicted to pain medications. So if you're not somebody who's already a drug seeker or already has addiction problems, then it's safe to prescribe an opioid medication for acute pain. And in truth, there really aren't a lot of great pain medications. The pharmaceutical company really hasn't come out with a lot of things beyond ibuprofen and Tylenol in terms of a pill for acute pain. So there are a lot of acute painful conditions that still may require an opioid. But I think that balance of, well, anybody can become an addict. Everybody starts somewhere, whether it was my prescription in the emergency department or an orthopedic prescription. When some people have really gotten carried away with that, but I think slowly the state laws and the federal awareness of that is starting to pull some of the outlying prescribing activity back in. It's slow. Some people haven't gotten the memo yet. You're still going to see some of that behavior. Yeah, and I think there is. I think if you, absolutely. And I think it's more at an individual level right now. There's not a repercussion, for instance, for prescribing too much. But it may come. You can certainly follow an individual doctor's prescribing history on the Mass PAT website, which tracks all the opioid prescriptions. And so if the state wants to move in that direction, the federal, it's not public information because it's private health information. That would be interesting. It's an interesting thought to publish those statistics.
Yeah,
we're under a lot of pressure to treat pain. I mean, I will say that, pain for a long time was the sixth vital sign. So we would ask you when you came into the emergency department, what's your pain scale? And we would, it's an 8, well, we better fix that. And we would have to, I've seen people, I've seen a push to bring people opioids in the waiting room to try to treat pain so we could treat it earlier. There's patient satisfaction surveys. People want their pain, treated. So I think there's now a big push in the other direction, but it's going to take a little time to right the ship. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. My thing is, thanks, Doc, I appreciate that. My thing about right there is I had a friend I spoke to yesterday, that he buried his son, who was an all-star football player, and he told me, Richie, he said the day that I was going to the wake, I went to the dentist for some gum work, and the receptionist said, feel real bad, sorry, Mr. Smith was sorry for the thing. The dentist scraped his gum. I'm really sorry about your son, the wake. And at the end, after he did, his son get addicted from, after a knee surgery from Percocet. And after the gum thing, the doctor turned to his pad and started writing him and gave him a script of 30 Vicodin. And he looked and he said, Doc, you didn't hear anything I said, did you? So the thing is, you're right, we're starting to change, like you said, we're starting to change, but it's going to be slow because you have that pain level, and it's like, when I was a junkie, I'd go in and say, what's your pain level? 10, it's 10. When really, you can suck it up. Take some ibuprofen and, suck it up. That's my belief. We have a question here.
Yeah, so you guys are talking about all these groups and all that, but for an addict, they need to admit their problem first in order to get help. So if they don't admit it, they're going to keep lying and all that. Because I've seen it with my own eyes. They lie before they get help, before they admit they have a problem.
Well, it's not even lying. It's what if you don't realize that you're an addict? How do you expect them to come up and realize they have a problem?
Well, I can only speak for myself, and you can speak to this in a second, but I lied about everything. There's nothing, I didn't tell the truth. Everything they can. So people ask me all the time, they call me, Richie, my son, when do I know if he's lying or not? And I say, I always answer him like this, everyone. I said, is his or her mouth moving? They say yes, well, he's lying, or she's lying. If their mouth are moving, they're lying. That's just me. Now, I'll let you speak to that. What's that?
so good. The
Yeah, so, and as far as you come to, I don't know how you get to that point of surrendering, you know, like I've tried to help a lot of people, and anybody that works in this, they all asked about the program, like, okay, what do I have to do? How long am I gonna, how long do I have to go for? Oh no, it's Teen Challenge, I gotta pray in the morning. It's free, right? And so, no, I gotta pray every day, I'm not into that. Well, can I use my phone? And all I say is this, you can pretty much know that when someone gets to the point of throwing his hands up, it doesn't matter who they're surrendering to. It doesn't matter. You've got to get to that point where, you know, that you admit it, like you said, you admit, I'm a liar, a thief, a junkie, and I don't want to live like this anymore.
And that was exactly what I said that day when I was brought back into the courtroom. I said, I can't do it anymore. And I didn't know any other way. I didn't know how to do it, which is why the drug court did show me that. But, you know, I work with addicts every day. I do work in a methadone clinic, and I have my own opinions about that, but I sit across the table and I hear it all. And for the most part, I say, you know what? And they look at me and they know, and they say, you're not buying this. And it's, no, I'm not, because I used it. I sat there. You can't pull. Yeah. You know, that's just how it is. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's just until you reach the bottom. And I heard somebody say, what about the moms that are out there that have problems? You know, it's not just students. That's why I want to make it very clear. Anybody can come to us, and there's no judgment. And that's important. That was important. I had wished that years ago, before all of this, when I was having a problem with cocaine, I wished that I had sat in an auditorium like this, because I don't know where I would be. I'm grateful where I am right now, but I don't know what would have been different. So the community does have it. We're here.
Yeah, you know, as far as physicians, I have a good friend that wrote a book, Free Refills. And the feds surrounded his office, took him, you know, and he's back practicing, teaching at Harvard. And anybody interested in this, and really, if they really have an interest, on January 27th in Boston and Quincy, this group Recovery Matters, which is a group of medical professionals from Boston. We're meeting on a Saturday. I'm going to be the keynote speaker in the morning, but Dr. Peter is going to be there talking about, you know, his addiction, what happened to him. It doesn't just happen it can happen to anybody. You can be a lawyer, doctors. I mean, I did a story on methadone clinics, and there's lawyers that show up there, and you know, they're accountants, and I'm not a big fan of that. Just my thing. I think, you know, it is harm reduction, but if you know, there's an opioid antagonist out there that no one's using, and I wrote a story about it in St. Louis, about 5 kids that was celebrating. I said 5 recovering addicts celebrate Christmas. A nice picture there, and they almost fired the 5 kids for speaking to me. And one of the agencies that I was going to be worried that I was contracted to work for, under contract as a consultant, I go into towns and cities, and I you know, follow up, where I come in for 10, 20 hours a month, and I work with students, organizations to help it keep going. And I get paid a retainer, because for 3 months you can't go in 1 or 2 times. You got to go there a lot to get things going. And this organization from St. Louis basically paid me the 3 months and said, keep it. So what do you mean? They said, well, we have to refrain we have to refrain from bashing Suboxone and Methadone. So they basically, the state of Missouri shut them off. They said, if we're going to start giving you this money for your program, and you're going to talk about, he was one of the leading people in St. Louis for this naltrexone, or the Vivitrol, which is, I think is a great doc. I don't know, you want to speak on that about Vivitrol? Sure. And you know, the difference in the three, Suboxone, Methadone, and...
Sure. So Vivitrol is an antagonist. Like you said, it can be injectable, so you could presumably have a depot put of it under the skin and not have any effects from opioids for 30 days. So a dose of heroin, morphine, anything would not have an effect on you. It blocks any kind of what are called exogenous opioids, which are any medication which affects the opioid receptor, which all of these medications work the same way in the end. Heroin, methadone, morphine, Dilaudid, Percocet. So it would block the effect of that whole class of medications or drugs. Suboxone, methadone is an agonist, like you said. So methadone is going to be a long-acting agonist. You take it, the way it's usually prescribed is once daily. The downside to it is you have to show up at the methadone clinic every day and get your pill. But they do track people very closely. So it does allow you to check in with people very frequently. Suboxone is interesting in that it is both an antagonist and an agonist. So unlike methadone, where if you did some additional drugs of abuse or took some additional opioids in addition to the methadone, you would get more high and have more effect from it. Suboxone actually will block the effect of additional opioids, so it has a peak effect, but then after that peak effect from Suboxone, you really won't get much more of a quote-unquote buzz from additional opioids. So that's sort of I think the way a lot of addiction specialists have gone is with Suboxone, just because of that property. That's one, and then the other property is because you can't double up on it, and you really won't get much more of a benefit from taking too much of your prescription or getting ahead of your prescription. You can actually prescribe it as an outpatient. So unlike methadone, where you really have to watch people take the pill and take it every day, Suboxone, you can give a prescription for 7 days in the beginning, and then once you have more of a track record with the provider, then you can go out to about 30 days or a month. And Suboxone, I think, does, I understand your concerns with it, and I think the problem with Suboxone right now is there are pill factories. There are people doing it the wrong way, where they really just say, here's the prescription, take that, come back and see me in a week or a month or whatever it is. There are some people doing it the right way, where they really do a multidisciplinary approach with psychiatrists, addiction specialists, etc. And that does have a role, because some people are just such a mess by the time they get into treatment that they need some sort of a crutch just to get the criminal element and the whole subversive element of being addicted to drugs out of their lives, to where they can actually focus on treating the addiction itself. But I do see that way too often, where people just start on Suboxone and there's no end point. There's no time limit.
But there's Suboxone doctors.
Yes, you have to have a specific license from the state to provide Suboxone. You have to take specific training, and it's an addendum to your license where you can prescribe it. It's not a big hurdle, but not every doctor or many doctors have gone through the training.
Right. So if we had Suboxone and we gave everyone in this room put under their tongue, would they get high?
If you're opioid naive, you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're opioid naive, you would. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my thing is, I totally agree that we have to use that, and I'm totally for that. But I'm a big fan of abstinence. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have won the DuPont Columbia. This junkie from Lowell climbed the stairs at Columbia University to receive the top award for as a journalist. I wouldn't be here on Suboxone. I wouldn't have done, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's what we have to go to.
You've been through it. I wouldn't argue with that. I think in the end that would be ideal. If everybody could go straight to abstinence, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll hopefully come up with better treatments for it. And the Suboxone is not the ultimate in terms of a pharmaceutical treatment for it, and it's certainly not something you'd want somebody to be on indefinitely.
And methadone, I've been speaking in recovery homes across the country, and as you're speaking, they're high. they're nodding out right in front of you, and they're in recovery. So there's some things that we have to do, you know. Some more questions? Yes?
Is the methadone program, is that effectively funded?
I'm not sure.
Yes, it is.
So is it kind of like, you showed the pictures of the two Swedish people that bought the oxycodone factory?
Yeah, the Sacklers, yeah.
See, isn't this methadone almost a correlation to that as far as the money-making thing? Because wasn't the point of it to get somebody onto it and then eventually wean them off it?
Well, methadone was established by Nixon. And Nixon, it was a thing that, you know, when he did the war against drugs because of Vietnam, they thought that all these people would be coming home. And, you know, the lobbyists are really, really huge in this country in the pharma industry. And so it became, at one point, the Antagonist, the only one out there, they really made a run because it was initially for alcohol, you know, and it was used for as a you know, they found it worked really well with alcohol. Correct? The naltrexone.
Actually, I'm not sure. Oh, naltrexone, yes.
Yes, naltrexone.
Yes.
Yeah, for alcohol. So for alcohol, and so there was a big push. They found all of a sudden in the study, wow, it works for opioids too. But there was this huge movement to squash it. Because you think about that, I talked about, imagine owning a business that had no accounts receivable, cash. So
That's what I'm saying, it's more of a cash cow than actually.
it's 18, I don't know how much it is per day at yours, but in St. Louis it was.
So out of pocket, it's $133 a week. Insurance does pay for it. It's liquid. A client comes in, and when they first come into the clinic, they are told, we want to see you successfully complete this program within 2.5 years. For the most part, my clients, and I have a caseload of 101, leave the clinic within 1.5 years. So if methadone is used the correct way, and when I first went on the interview, I'm being 100% honest, when I first went for the interview, the interviewer had said to me, what do you think of methadone? And I said, I think it's a joke. I think that you're not clean if you're on it, but I'm willing to learn. And I'll tell you, I have seen methadone save many lives, and I have seen many clients come into my office, sit and leave my office within 1.5 years, have successful jobs, and they just needed that. Can it be abused? Absolutely. Do people do it a lot? Absolutely.
I mean, does anybody police it, or is it just, you know, okay, it worked for you, but...
Yes, the DEA does come in and does audits at least every quarter, so every 3 months the DEA does come in. DPH comes in every quarter and does the whole clinical side. We just went through a DPH licensing. It's monitored.
I just know a lot of people that have been on it for a long time.
And there are...
It's more crutch than anything else.
Absolutely, and in some cases, yes, I totally agree.
And
We have what we call take-homes.
Addiction with another opioid, it's not gonna help. It doesn't help anybody. Everybody I've known that it's been, I'm Jeremy, by the way. I'm a recovered heroin addict. After I'm Kelly's brother. I've been in recovery successfully for about 1 year. And,
All right.
The whole methadone thing, that's a bunch of crap, and like, you're right. It's just a cash cow. There's too many lobbyists, like what Richie's saying, for us to be able to kick it. And you can't treat an opioid addiction with an opiate. I was on Suboxone for 2+ years, and my doctor, I had to cut myself down. I had to cut myself off from my Suboxone doctor because he was giving me 2 pills a day. And I'm like, I want to cut down, doc. I want to cut down. He's like, he wouldn't cut me down. And he's like, this is a 4-year plan. And the only thing I wanted to do was be free from any addiction and go on with my life. But I had that crutch and I couldn't get rid of it. My doctor wasn't going to help me. We got to get rid of Suboxone. You got to get rid of all these crutches because you can't treat an addiction with another addiction. It's not gonna help anybody or anything.
With these Suboxone, now, is that true that they can take that, crush that up, and
No, I don't believe so.
It's
So,
actually mixed with Narcan. So
Yeah.
if you take it, the Narcan won't be absorbed. So legally, if you take it the right way, if you crush it up, and then it'll actually block the effects you sort of work like this.
Still not really paid for recovery, they're not necessarily, you're getting a number of months worth of pills, they can just sell and get heroin.
Everybody I've known on methadone goes to the methadone clinic and they go to pick up and you go do dope right after the methadone clinic.
because the best way I've heard it described, and that is fantastic, and best way I've heard it described is the little door in your brain that allows the only receptors that allow the opioids up there, that Suboxone opens that door just a little bit, lets a little in. And methadone opens it wide, lets it all in. And I had a doctor that is a specialist say that. Of course, I'm sure it's a lot more technical. Yeah, and so, yes, my friend.
The young lady, I'll let the young lady go first. Right back in the letter.
Here, can you use this so we can hear?
Methadone doesn't give you the same high as like heroin, and when you go to a methadone clinic, you have to go through therapy and you get drug tested for other drugs. So if you do dope after you go and take your dose at the methadone clinic, it will be shown and you will have your consequences. And when you first go, you do have to get your dose tweaked until it's the right dose so it doesn't give you a high and it doesn't mess you up.
Yeah.
So it is safe. No, it doesn't. They wean you off.
Well, here's
They wean you off. That's the 2.5-year thing, is they wean you off.
So here's the thing. I've been in every state in the country. Every state's different. Like in some states, insurance won't pay for it. If it's government insurance, state insurance, that they qualify for that, they'll pay for it. But a lot of insurance companies in states like Missouri, it's cash only. And so it all depends. You hear horror stories and you hear good stuff. So the debate, we could debate on and on but the one thing I truly believe in, we're all right. Each of us have our own beliefs. This young man found success by just getting off that stuff. I found success that way. There are some people that because of the harm reduction, they need that Suboxone and stuff. And I think everybody's right. Until we can figure this out, I'm sure the doctor will agree that everybody I speak to in the medical field said we get hit with this and like no way could we expect this was coming. It was so like huge, a tsunami effect. So what we're trying to do right now is just save lives. So I think we're all right. We're all, my friend.
Thank you. For those that don't know who I am, I'm Chief of Police in Littleton. I grew up in the 70s. I graduated high school in 1977. So I grew up in law enforcement from 1980 on. I've gone through the cocaine wars. I've been through the heroin wars. I've been in all the drug wars. I've been involved in most of these programs. For the first time in my career, we always used to figure we could arrest our way out of everything. Guess what? It didn't work. For the first time ever, we're starting to, I believe, finally try and take the stigma down of a situation that, if a person breaks into your house because they're addicted to heroin, and I send them to jail for breaking into your house, but I don't help them get treatment, guess what? They're still going to be addicted to heroin. They're going to come out and they're going to break into your house again. For the first time, we're finally trying to take steps as a community, and I think as a state, and I think as a nation to some degree. We have two of our legislators right here in the middle row here tonight that have started looking at things. And I guess my point is it's groups like this, small groups that start out. I'm hoping I can get someone to set up a sign-out sheet at the end here so we can get email addresses, because this could be a core to help Littleton move forward. There are people in here that sound like they're motivated to try and help us as a community, help us move forward. I would have loved to have seen this room packed tonight. I know Cindy would have, Chuck DeCoste would have, we all would have loved to have seen this place packed, but it's not, and it's unfortunate, because I think a lot of people still have their head in their sand, that they think, not my child, not my brother, not my mother. You know, if I can say to parents anything in the world here, is pay attention to your children, be involved, be invasive, look at their cell phones, because the worst thing for drug dealing that ever came out was this thing right here. Before, I could go to a bar, I could stop it by hitting the payphones. Now, it's all done by cell phone delivery service. There's deliveries made in this town every single day. With that being said, that group up there, to me, is the core of what can help Littleton move forward. With support from the Board of Selectmen, which we have, from support from our legislators, Deputy Chief Patterson has been involved in drug court. I believe that Littleton is on the progressive edge, and I fully support it. While my career in law enforcement is coming to an end, there are people like the deputy who are stepping forward. There are other people, and finally I see, if you will, a light at the end of the tunnel, I hope, for treatment, for getting rid of the stigma, for telling people, you know, it used to be, and I will honestly tell you, you know, in the 1980s, if I could get a poor addict with heroin, that was a great pinch. That was a great arrest. But it did nothing for that poor person who was a heroin addict. And now finally, as a world, we're seeing this. And one thing that stands out to me above all else is the statistic that out of the opioids, all the opioids used in the world, prescribed opioids, 80% are prescribed in the United States of America. And if you add Canada and someone else, it comes out to like 95%. That to me is very telling and a problem. And it's going to continue to be a problem. Watch your children. If they get prescribed an opioid, watch them. Yeah. You know, and I can't say that enough, but when we put out the call, and I'm hoping we can get all your email addresses, ask you to invite 5 people. Maybe we do some smaller group things at the PD or wherever, but we need to keep the conversation moving. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make reference to, Richie made reference to the Irish Catholic thing, and when I first came into the room, there was another meeting that I was supposed to be at tonight, and then when I saw how few people were here tonight, I was pissed off. I was like, what is our town doing? This is something that we know it's a problem. We've identified it as a priority. It's one of the Board of Selectmen's goals. I know the school department's working on it, you know, the wellness committee, the police department, we're all trying to attack this. And every single one of us in some way, shape, or form either knows of somebody or have somebody in our family. Whether or not we're going to address that stigma and admit to it, there weren't a lot of hands that went up. And, but we've all been touched in some way, shape, or form. So at first I was pissed off. And I was going to get up at the mic and I was going to be like the Catholic priest who was preaching to the people that were in the seats, why aren't more people at church?
Right.
But we're all here. So thank you all for coming and for making this a priority. And I think that, to Chief's point, if we can all, the old Fabergé commercials, I don't use a lot of shampoo these days, but if we each tell 2 friends and we can spread the word and keep it a priority, we've educated, the kids would fill in these seats this morning, and if we can keep educating them, there's a problem amongst, Deputy, I think you mentioned the 19 to 26-year-old group. In the last 12 months, Cindy, you might know the numbers, we lost three of our residents? At least three, right, that are public, that didn't show up in the obituary as suddenly. If we start breaking down that stigma and people start admitting it, when I've got a friend of mine who lost his son, who was a Dean student, great kid, never would have seen it coming, same thing, pain medication started it, and that's kind of what opened my eyes to it. And he tries to break down that stigma, and one of the things that he did to try to start it, and I don't know if you know Billy Scannell, I don't know if you've seen him in your travels, but he made sure that in the obituary, he stated that his son fell victim to substance abuse.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that people are aware that it's happening in our backyards. Chief just mentioned it. It's happening every day. There's deliveries in town, and it's happening in this building, and we need to put a stop to it. We need to put our finger on the dike and try to find solutions.
So one thing that I haven't heard talked about, which is really important, is if there are opioids in your medicine cabinet, how do you dispose of it? So I think that would be a good thing to address.
You know, I was telling this to skiing on Sunday with my son and my wife and her cousin at Crotchet Mountain. And my cousin's wife said about the opioids she has, the Percocets she has. And I said, I tell you got to get rid of them. She's got like 30 of them. You got to get rid of them. Don't leave me. She's got a daughter that's a junior in high school and her son that's 12, my son's 8. And I said, why? I said, because I'm a junkie with over 30 years clean, right? In any bathroom I go in to this day, I catch myself doing it. Now, it might sound weird to you, but every bathroom I'm in, I stand in front of that toilet to pee, and guess what's right here? I still open it. I open it to see if people left their drugs in there so I can tell them, get them out of there. But that was what we did all the time, is go in people's bathroom and take their drugs. You don't know how fast that can be for a kid to just go just like that. You don't need them in there. Get rid of them. I don't know how we get rid of them. There's some way, right?
That's good question, because he's right. That a lot of the B&Es that happen in town, they'll come home, people come home, see their door has been opened, and they say nothing's missing. We say go to the medicine cabinet, and that's what's missing. So if you have stuff to dispose of, the police station in the front lobby has a 24/7 kiosk that you can drop and get rid of any type of pills or narcotics or anything like that. Also, twice a year we participate in National Drug Take Back Day, where we set up a table outside, and if you're familiar with the police station, you can drive in and drive around. You don't even have to get out of your car. You drive in, and there's an officer there to take the medications, and we take them, and the DEA disposes of them for us. So we do that twice a year and advertise that. That's usually in April and in October. But 24/7, you can come down to the station, go to that kiosk, and get rid of the narcotics. And then that's really important to do.
Yes.
I just wanted to address the stigma thing.
Yeah.
I think it's great we're all going to get rid of the stigma, but I see like this whole group, everyone's like, well, my kid might do heroin, but it's only going to be because they were a star hockey player who got hurt and got on opiates, so they're not as bad as the dual diagnosis depressed person who ends up on. So I think it's important to point out that you're not a less bad person
Right.
when you are an addict.
We got a long way to go, but I think the chief said something really good. Like, like I said, Laconia was packed because they've been hit really hard up there, So you had a lot of people in there. It was the high school there, same type of setup. It's packed, but there's not a lot of people. Okay, so I counted once when we were going on, like 40 people. Okay, should be a lot more than that. But it's the good news is, it's the great core that everybody here that's in Littleton, that's speaking, should get involved. They should put their email address, and the coalition should take it. They have meetings. This got to continue, because there are a lot of people with their head in the sand. It's not going to happen. If they only knew, like I said, I know a lot of moms and dads with dead kids, and they would do anything to get it right.
You had said earlier, you were talking about maybe doing a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be directed towards the kids.
Yeah, it's called I Am a Heroin Addict. I can get the information and put it out there, but you can go on YouTube channel, and it's the I Am a Heroin Addict show, and it's live next Thursday. I'll shoot one live from 5 to 6 on Thursday, and they can watch it live, and then they can go on that channel and watch it after.
What does it have for content?
So I'm there, and I'll have guests. I have people from all over the country. I have Skype guests. I've had doctors, I've had addicts, I've had, you know, I just started it at the end of the year, and my goal is to have it, to get subscribers all over. So, see, the thing is, you've got people all over this country, kids and stuff, that want to get off. And so, if we build this thing, we can go out to them, not just here with 400 kids today. We can get some kids that are active, that want to get off, you know? And so, my thing is to use the media as a writer and filmmaker, to use that as a TV show to get all over the country.
Do you think it is something you should, like, I mean, I got 3 kids who grew up in Littleton.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very innocent as far as anything outside this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not city kids, they're not streetwise.
Yeah.
Is there anything like, I mean, I work down in Boston a lot. I mean, I go up and down, I got a mile all the time.
Oh my God.
It makes my heart.
Sad, sad.
I get cringe.
Sad.
And I just almost want to, I want to take my kids down to the McDonald's there on Mass Ave and let them sit there for half an hour and watch the shit go on.
So, near some of the best medical facilities in the country.
You're talking 16 and 17-year-old girls that are being pimped out.
It's the saddest thing in the world.
It's the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think if you're stuck in Littleton, you don't see, all right, we're talking about this, and you know, you mentioned many people have lost their children and all that stuff. But it's such a dirty thing.
It is.
And I think sometimes they need to actually see it from another scope. Just to see how those people get up at 7 in the morning and fall asleep on the sidewalk all day long.
Right.
Anywhere, I think sometimes I don't know what you want to show on your channel. It's just a talking thing, you want to show different aspects of it.
Yeah, we're going to have addicts, we're going to go out and shoot footage. You know, as we build this, we're going to go out in the streets and get sponsors, and, you know, it's going to, you know, this is a work in progress, and that's why it's great here, because I can guarantee you it's here already, and it's coming. The numbers tell us, statistics, that it's going to be devastating.
Now, is that something that they can get the high school to look into the name and say, all right, on Tuesdays we're going to show 30 minutes of the YouTube channel.
Sure.
Just to maybe wait in some other people.
Yeah.
And say what really happens when you actually get hooked on this crap.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm dealing with lobbyists in Washington to try and get money to film a documentary that, you know, I directed a movie called High on Crack Street. So I'm trying to get a film that is similar to the docudrama And the Band Played On, which basically brought down the AIDS epidemic and got everybody involved. So I'm trying to get that. The problem is they represent these lobbyists represent a lot of big pharma. The problem is one of the ones that wants to give me the money to do it is Purdue, and I'd rather not take their money. So it's tough. But we have other. You want to sign us off?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, Cindy, can I just say one thing? Sure. Because, building on what Robert's talking about, not all addicts are like that, though. A lot of them seem to be highly functioning. And my friend who lost her kid in Littleton last year, one of the first things she said to me, and maybe she had her head in the sand, but she said, I saw him every day. I made him, lunch, I got him up to go to work every day, and I had no idea. So that scares me.
Well, here, just to address that, and I'm sure the doctor can address this as well, is so, here's the problem. My buddy who's a nurse practitioner at the Methuen Hospital, the locked floor up top, all the talk screens, he tells me, I had lunch with him today, that all the talk screens that come in, there's no more heroin in them, they're all fentanyl. So the problem is, fentanyl is lethal, and you take just once. If there's no one there with Narcan, there ain't no, right, Doc? That's what. So, and then the other thing about, and that's for a debate for another time. I've never known a heroin addict that is functionable. You can fool a lot of people, but it's really hard to be functional for a long time, right, my brother? So anyway, but we're in progress. I really hope that the chief had this great idea. I don't know if you can get people's addresses.
We can do that.
Email, because you get 20 people involved. That's a great movement to get things going.
Right. So thank you, everyone that came out tonight. Little disappointed about the turnout, but that's okay. I think this was really a great presentation. I am very grateful. I actually need to thank Alexa Faravalotis for finding Richie and spearheading getting him to come to speak to the community tonight. She's been a huge help. She's part of the Littleton Coalition as well. And so there's a lot of great informational materials on the tables out in the lobby. We have put together a booklet. The town of Littleton has. It has resources for everybody on the coalition to get in contact with them, as well as some other organizations. So please feel free to pick up one of those booklets. And what we were saying is, if you want to email Natalie here at the high school with your contact information, because the coalition is moving forward. We're going to schedule another meeting, come up with a course of action. What is our next step? And I think tonight we heard a lot of great input about what our potential next step could be, or next steps. This is just the beginning. The Littleton Coalition's only had one meeting. Like I said, Alexa was great to get us a wonderful guest speaker. The event today at the high school was amazing. I think the kids were really engaged, and they really took a lot away from that. And so this is a work in progress, and this was really a great event tonight. And it is, like I said, one of the a great first step. So again, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for caring, honestly, because it is out there. We've lost a lot of kids, and I know everybody in this room knows somebody, has lost somebody personally, or knows someone who's struggling. So we just have to keep planting seeds, so to speak, and keep getting the word out, and keep moving forward. So thank you very much.